From a young age, I was raised as a daughter-in-law by the Sam family. At 20, I married Sam. At 24, I gave birth to Henry. Henry is a lot like Sam, always quiet and not very close to me. Every night in the past, I would bring them a cup of hot milk before bedtime. But on that day, Sam accidentally knocked over the cup, and Henry secretly poured out the milk. I suddenly felt tired. The moment I handed Sam the divorce agreement, he frowned and asked me displeasedly, "Just because of this? Because of this? What about our son? What are you going to do about Henry?" Sam asked me in his usual tone, as if dealing with business matters. Sitting across from him, like a guest at his negotiation table, I calmly said, "I will give up his custody rights. The house in the eastern suburbs will also be transferred to his name as compensation for child support. After all, this child seems more like a real family with him and Sam than with me." Sam looked at me, his emotions faint in his eyes, as if not understanding what I was really upset about. "Linda," he softened his tone, "if you can't get over that milk incident, I apologize to you. You know, I got drunk last night. I didn't mean to treat you like that," he patiently explained, always thinking it was about the milk incident. Last night, Sam came back very late from business entertainment. I waited for him half the night, woken up by the cold air he brought in when he entered. Rising from the sofa, I saw him struggling to remove his coat, so I immediately went to the kitchen and brought him the warm milk I had prepared for him. Although our marriage wasn't great, it was at least passable on the surface. But last night, when I asked him who he had met, because the scent of perfume on him was familiar, Sam suddenly let go of the cup of milk I gave him. I was momentarily caught off guard. The glass slipped from our touching fingertips, shattering in the warm light of the room, bringing a quiet scattering to the floor. Sam's brows furrowed, his aura irritated. He looked at me with a cold expression and warned, "Linda, you've crossed the line. From now on, you don't have to wait for me at night, and you don't need to prepare milk for me anymore." After witnessing his father's actions, Henry also poured out the milk secretly. When I found out, he stood at the door, without any emotion, apologizing to me. "Sorry, Mom, if Dad doesn't drink, I don't want to drink either." Perhaps to them, it was such a trivial matter. I couldn't and shouldn't make such a big fuss about it. I didn't explain further. I signed the papers, handed them over to a good lawyer, and chose to end my marriage to Sam. Sam casually discussed the property division details, which I didn't pay much attention to. I went back to my room to pack my things. He gazed at me and said, "Linda, the paperwork will take some time to process. You don't have to rush to move out. You can stay in this house." I glanced at the still composed and indifferent man, and calmly quoted his words back to him. "It's better to handle things cleanly and swiftly to avoid lingering issues," just as he had said before. Sam didn't say anything more. I never thought packing would be so overwhelming. The house was filled with bits and pieces, everything I had arranged with my own hands. I took one last look around and decided to simplify things. I dragged my suitcase towards the door. Sam stopped me. "Where are you going?" "To your parents' place. I'll have the driver take you." "No need," I refused, telling him, "Remember to have the maid clear out my stuff tomorrow. I won't deal with it." After all, their family didn't lack someone who could handle these things. Stepping out the door, I paused, turned back, and instructed the expressionless Henry standing behind Sam, "I won't be picking you up from kindergarten anymore, but remember not to go with strangers." It was also a final farewell to myself. Saying that, I walked away without looking back at the child I had patiently comforted during his weaning period, crying and held in my arms all night. I bought a plane ticket to leave the northern city, randomly choosing a city in the south. From the age of 14, when I was told I would marry Sam, my freedom and choices were restricted. After marrying Sam, except for attending some necessary events, he never took the initiative to take me out. The most common part of life was probably waiting for them to come home every night, and giving them a cup of warm milk before bed. People in our circle would say, Sam had raised me very well. I was perfectly tailored to be his wife. I matched his status and took care of his life. The only downside was, too perfect. It was so perfect that it seemed boring and a little stiff. I remember Sam's friends teasing him, "Sam, how does it feel to live the life of an old married couple at such a young age? Your wife is so uninteresting. She laughs like a mannequin. Do you want us to introduce you to someone interesting? Like Vivian back then." Sam's first love, Vivian. Sam's family didn't approve of their relationship at the time, and Sam resisted in every way. Then something happened, they broke up, and Vivian went to the United States. After that, when I was 20, Sam suddenly accepted his family's arrangement and proposed to me. 4 years later, I gave birth to Henry. I remembered the familiar scent of perfume I smelled that night was the kind Vivian used to wear, a special scent of gardenia. After finding a place to stay, I explored many places. Unexpectedly, on the third morning, I received a call from Sam. He seemed to have just woken up, his voice hoarse as he asked, "Linda, where did you put those ruby cufflinks you bought me at the auction last year?" I paused. "In the drawer of the second compartment in the cloakroom." I then asked him, "Where is the occasion?" "A ribbon-cutting ceremony at a mall. The matching suit is the fourth one in the second row." Sam still seemed a little groggy, and I could hear him rummaging and complaining vaguely on the phone. I listened for a while, then asked him, "Did you find it?" The voice on the other end paused, as if finally realizing my question. "I found it. Sorry for bothering you," he replied. I responded, saying, "I know," and then instructed him, "Ask the nanny to tidy up your room again. If you still can't find it, you can ask them. From now on, please don't call me to bother me again," I added. Sam fell silent for a moment and said, "Okay." After hanging up, I blocked his number and tried to go back to sleep, but I couldn't seem to rest peacefully. I had many strange dreams. At 14, laughing and playing with classmates at school. At 15, the sunny day when I first met Sam. At 16, the pain of getting caught sneaking out for a car race, and my dad breaking my leg in return. And then, another round of shrill ringing woke me up. I jolted awake from the dream, feeling irritated as I reached for my phone on the bedside table. It was an unknown number. I answered and a polite voice said, "Hello, is this Henry's mother?" The teacher from Henry's kindergarten explained that there was a robotics showcase event today, and Henry participated, but forgot his project at home, saying his mother had prepared it for him. I held the phone tightly, closed my eyes, and felt the exhaustion deep within me. Not long ago, I was sitting in the living room, studying the video blueprint frame by frame, doing Henry's craft homework. But that day I rushed too much, and the robot was still half done. I looked out at the already high sun outside the window and softly replied to the teacher, "I'm sorry, his custody no longer belongs to me, and I won't take care of him anymore." "And is he with you now?" The teacher felt a bit awkward but assured, "Yes, Henry is right here with me." Sighing, I asked, "Could you please put it on speakerphone?" "Sure, thank you." I heard the noise of the phone being handled, then silence. I thought Henry could probably hear me. I softly said, "Henry, the robot is in the toy box in your room. You can call your dad to bring it to you or anyone else, but from now on, I hope you won't call me again. I'm no longer your mother, you know." After saying that, I apologized to the teacher again, and hung up the phone. It was heart-wrenching to say those words to a child I gave birth to. I can't remember when Henry started to become more like Sam. Sam and I were betrothed very early on. When I was 14, my grandfather, father, and Sam's elders walked out of the study with smiles on their faces. I was being groomed as Sam's wife by his family. Many schoolmates envied my wealthy background. I didn't argue, just smiled bitterly. I had a luxurious life, but no freedom. During the high school entrance exam, I didn't do well. In the middle of the night, my mother, getting angrier by the minute, burst into my room, pulled me out of bed, and gave me a slap across the face. During high school, I rebelled and fell in love early, and my father added another slap. He warned me that if I didn't want to marry Sam, then I had to marry other businessmen almost 20 years older than me. I first saw Sam when I was 15. It was arranged by both families. Sam was different back then, a boy who smiled a lot, showing his emotions clearly on his face. My impression of him wasn't deep. I only remembered the white shirt under the blue sky and his emotionally expressive eyes. Later, I heard that he had a falling out with his family over his first love. I admired and envied him. At least he dared to rebel, to have the right to resist. But not long after, his mother visited my family. With a polite smile tinged with apologies on her face, she held my mother's hand and assured her, "You can rest assured, we've resolved the matter with Sam." I listened from the doorway, feeling quite lost, thinking to myself, as expected. After that, our families kept arranging for Sam and me to meet. At first, he was resistant and didn't have a good expression around me, but then he slowly accepted, occasionally speaking a few words to me. I also watched him transform from a prickly teenager to someone quiet and reserved, concealing all his emotions, and the distinctive scent of gardenia that clung to him dissipated into the air over time, until I was 20 and Sam was 24. On the way to a party, we experienced a landslide accident and were trapped in the car. Sam and I were buried together for a day and a night. When the rescue team found us, my last memory was of his arm over me being pierced by the collapsed car, covered in blood. When I woke up, he proposed to me. In front of both our families, he asked, Linda, will you marry me? I looked at his arm wrapped in white bandages. I remembered our time trapped in the car, him nervously calling my name, telling me, Linda, don't fall asleep. If you fall asleep now, you will truly lose your freedom. Almost involuntarily, I placed my hand on his. I overlooked the calm and expressionless look in his lowered eyes, as if completing a necessary ritual. And so, we got married. 4 years later, as everyone desired, we had a child. Hendry was showered with love and affection from both families. Sam's mother believed he needed the best education like Sam did. So when he spilt that glass of milk, and with the same innocent face, apologized to me the same way he did to his dad, it seemed like a natural thing to him, even though everyone could tell. I don't know what this father and son were thinking, but after a week, I received a call from Sam again. He was using a different number, because I had blocked him. Dragging out the conversation was not what Sam would typically do. When I answered the phone, there was silence on the other end for a few seconds. Just as I was feeling puzzled and about to hang up, Sam's voice came through. Linda, he called my name. Your parents said you didn't go home. Where are you? Is it in the southern city? He was checking up on me. I knew he had that ability, and there was this indescribable anger inside me. In our past 9-year marriage, he was indifferent, distant. We lived like strangers under the same roof. Yet now, just half a month later, he had called me more times than he had in the past year. Before, when I asked him in messages, are you coming home for dinner tonight? Are you in a meeting? Is your stomach hurting? Do you want me to make porridge for you? He would at most reply with a simple yes. But now, he acted like nothing had happened. On the phone, hoarse, he asked me, Linda, I have dinner engagements today, and my stomach is aching. Do you remember where the medicine is in the house? And Hendry caught a cold from his classmate at kindergarten, with a temperature of 38 degrees, and he's restless. What did you do before to make him feel better? I was furious. I suppressed my rage and tried not to sound like a hysterical lunatic, telling him, word by word, Sam, we are divorced. I'm not your wife anymore, nor your nanny. Whether your stomach hurts or not, whether you can find stomach medicine or not, it's not my concern. And even if your child is sick, all your words to me are useless. I'm not a doctor, and I have never seen a father asking the child's mother what to do in such a situation. I don't know what you want to do. Maybe it's unwillingness. Maybe it's the habit of my care. But Sam, I don't want to be harsh. We are done. Don't disturb my life anymore. Do you understand? After saying these words, I hung up the phone completely. I turned over my phone, took out the SIM card, and threw it in the trash. In today's society, everything is tied to the SIM card. I didn't expect Sam and Hendry to call me from time to time. Naturally, I didn't think Sam was still in love with me. It was just that I had taken care of them for too long, and it was hard to get used to it for a while. I got a new SIM card, withdrew some cash, and joined an expedition team for a trip to the desert. This was a project I had seen online before. When I mentioned it before, Sam said he had no time. Friends in the circle laughed. This is too shabby. Linda, with Sam's status, joining such a cheap travel group is so embarrassing. I just smiled and didn't say anything more. I thought it was just a fleeting thought at that time. Sam wouldn't allow me to be so reckless. But unexpectedly, it became so easy now. Breaking a shackle required the bound person to start struggling from the heart. The day we set off with the expedition team, the sky was clear. The journey was by train. The whole train ride was bumpy, and each time I was deeply trapped in that constricted dream, I would be slowly awakened by the swaying. At the crack of dawn, in a state of confusion, the people in the expedition team were mainly geologists. They seemed inarticulate, but could talk eloquently about a pile of soil, a blade of grass, or an unknown wildflower. Occasionally humorous, sometimes witty, they made the vast and sparsely populated desert full of strong vitality. There was no doubt that my good family background and the training I received from Sam over the years allowed me to see many things that others couldn't. Previously, in my understanding, I thought that traveling had to be more enjoyable with family. Roasted lamb, covered in sand, let me see the brighter stars in the sky. I knew Sam would still track my travels, but that wasn't important anymore. Later, after the expedition ended, I exchanged contact information with those new friends. After a few days of rest in the city, I set off for the snowy mountains. When I reached the summit of Mount Everest, I suffered severe altitude sickness, breathless, splitting headache. I almost thought I was going to perish in this highest mountain range. But in the distance, with the golden sun rising, everyone on the mountaintop was cheering. In the midst of this fiery and chaotic atmosphere, I burst into tears. The team members were in a flurry, giving me oxygen, feeding me high-sugar beverages. They thought I was in great discomfort and hurriedly comforted me. Don't cry, girl, it's okay. Your blood oxygen level is up. Don't be afraid, with us here, you won't die. With their help, I stood up from the snow and faced the distant golden sunrise, embracing my new life. No matter how many shackles or difficulties there were on the journey, I could still climb to the top on my own, right? When I returned, I picked up some of my old hobbies, like extreme sports, like racing, and raising a small dog that I liked. Before getting engaged to Sam, I was actually a carefree and cheerful person. I loved all things lively, but then, I didn't even have my freedom. How could I still talk about love? I raised a mixed Maltese, and I called him Coco. He had caramel-colored soft fur and innocent big eyes. Every time he ran, his ears would flap. Dogs are easier to get along with than people. Dogs understand your needs. Dogs never ignore you. They know you love them, and they love you back. And to bid farewell to Sam was at the door of my new home. I was about to take Coco for a walk. When I opened the door, I saw Sam standing at the elevator, his hand tightly held onto Coco's leash, nervously watching my hand. What are you doing here? I sat across from Sam, asking him coldly. Henry was at the end of the sofa, frowning as he watched Coco showing off. Sam silently looked at me for a while. Linda, you've lost weight. I raised an eyebrow. Cut to the chase. It's our son who wanted to see you. I couldn't stop him. Linda, I asked him, do you remember what I told you last time? We are divorced. Please stop disturbing my life. Can't you understand that? Linda pursed her lips into a thin line. Sam, Henry is still young. He can't be without a mother. I chuckled. I made a call to the security guard at the complex. They escorted the father and son out. Henry didn't want to leave. He stood at my door, staring at me, opened his mouth as if he wanted to say something. I held Coco and ignored him, firmly closing the door. I feared that if I looked at him again, I would involuntarily soften. He was the flesh and blood I bore in the operating room, in unbearable pain. I hugged him, loved him, soothed him, cared for him. The first word he spoke was Mom. When Henry was little, he cried whenever he saw someone, but only when he was in my arms was he quiet and lovely. But later, Sam's mother said I was not bringing up the child properly, using so-called elite education to train him. A child's growth is always influenced and reflected by upbringing. He remembered everything people told him, and acted accordingly. Growing up, he also became unwilling to be close to me. He began to distance himself from me, treating me politely like he did with Sam. He called me Mom, using please when speaking. Mom, please let my dad teach me. Grandma says your education is not as high as Dad's, so you can't teach me well. Mom, why are you always at home? Don't you have any hobbies? My classmates' mothers all do. When I told the guard not to let anyone in randomly, Sam changed his approach. Sometimes he would be waiting alone at the gate in the morning, sitting in the back seat of the Maybach, looking like he hadn't slept all night. When he saw me coming out, he handed me a steaming hot breakfast, dusty and tired. You don't like eating in the morning, it's not good for your stomach. Have a little bit. Sometimes he would bring Henry to walk behind me when I was walking the dog. I passed by without looking and never glanced at them. Neighbors I got to know while walking the dog sometimes curiously asked me about the relationship between the bright father and son and me. I told them truthfully. The ex-husband who still has someone in his heart and the child who prefers that lady. They were embarrassed for a moment, then immediately became sympathetic. Every time they saw the father and son, they would inform me in advance so that I could avoid going out of sight, out of mind. I smiled politely and told them it was okay. I had long ceased to care about it. Sam was always busy. There were many things waiting for him at the company. He couldn't always linger around me. Many times, I saw him sitting wearily in the car, answering call after call. Maybe it was about the company, or maybe about home. After all, he spent too much time bringing Henry out. Sometimes Henry would sneak out behind Sam, asking the driver to take him to find me. Then, without saying a word, he would follow me, with small, hesitant steps. I focused on walking Coco, giving her water and treats. Coco would wag her tail happily, barking softly at me. Henry would just watch, not saying a word, his eyes full of anger. Children, unlike adults, are not good at hiding their emotions. One time, Coco ran too fast and Henry couldn't keep up. He anxiously fell on the stone path. Finally, unable to hold back, he cried out, his eyes red with tears, telling me plaintively, Mom, it hurts. Once Henry understood reasoning, he rarely cried. Perhaps it was because he felt uncomfortable and wronged inside. He lay on the ground, looking at me, crying until he broke down. I looked at him quietly, without any movement, until the security guards following him rushed over and picked him up from the ground. Henry used to get sick frequently. Every time he was ill and listless, I would feel distressed and heartbroken. But now, my heart is as still as a pond. There was no ripple anymore. My current life would not be affected by the presence of the father and son. After returning from a trip recently, I signed up for a racing club. I wanted to pick up some former hobbies. I didn't expect to be selected for a racing event. Even though there was a high probability of being eliminated in the first round, I prepared seriously for a long time. The competition was scheduled for a week later. On the day of departure, I deliberately bought a pre-dawn flight. Nervous pre-competition preparations, anticipation, and yet tranquility. The wind tore through the track, freezing time in the friction between tires and the ground. Sweat under the racing suit chased and pulled urgently. I took off my helmet, standing on the podium with sweat. Cheers from the audience kept coming in waves. Second place. It was a result I never expected. As I walked out with the crowd, Sam was holding Henry in the crowded crowd. Henry holding a bouquet of flowers in his arms. As if afraid the flowers would be damaged, he vigilantly avoided everyone passing by him. When he saw me, Sam nodded at me, a hint of a smile in his eyes, and said something. From his lip movement, it was probably a congratulation. And Henry, blushing, excitedly waved at me, shouting neatly, "Mom, you are amazing." The surrounding crowd was smiling at us, but I just felt annoyed. I grabbed my stuff and headed out. Sam came over with Henry. "Linda, I didn't know you could do all this. Why didn't you mention it before? Mom, you were so cool just now. You have no idea how nervous I was when you passed that car in front." I ignored it and kept walking, but Sam grabbed my hand, lowered his voice and asked, "Linda, how about we have dinner together tonight to celebrate? Henry really misses you." As Henry listened, he eagerly looked at me, trying to push the bouquet into my hand. I took my hand back and avoided it. "I'm very busy. Don't have time. You guys go ahead and eat." Sam is careless at work. Henry hasn't been home for a long time. Sam's mother inevitably found me, looking at this woman in front of me, who once liked me, but had a rift with me. I felt a kind of indescribable sadness. Maybe it's because we are both mothers, or maybe because we are both women. "Linda, I chose you back then, because you were quiet and reserved, a suitable person to be our daughter-in-law. But now, both Sam and Henry are not coming home because of you. How is this any different from Vivian back then? Linda, come back. Just for the sake of my face, give Sam another chance." Sam's mother is not the kind of overbearing wealthy lady. On the contrary, she always speaks gently and politely, just like Sam and Henry do with me. I think if it wasn't for her son and grandson, she wouldn't lower herself to sit in my small 2-bedroom apartment begging me to give Sam a chance. But Auntie, Sam doesn't love me. Our marriage for 9 years has been a waste of time for me. You chose me back then because of my family, not me. Now, following everyone's wishes, our families are closely connected, inseparable. I have a child, as you hoped. Henry has grown up, and without me, you will take good care of him. Can you give me my freedom back? My father once broke my leg and killed my pet dog. I was timid and didn't dare to resist. Later, I married Sam, and once their goals were achieved, Henry came as a result of our blood ties. I am no longer useful. More importantly, Auntie, I don't love Sam anymore. Once you fall asleep, Linda, you will no longer have freedom. Will you marry me? Maybe I can give you freedom. But later, the young man forgot the promise he casually made. Sam's mother sighed deeply, speaking to the air. "Did you hear that, Sam?" I tried my best. Beside her purse, the phone screen was lit up. It showed Sam's name, on a call. That night, Sam showed up at my doorstep. "Linda, I still want to give it another try. I know I didn't handle things well before. I neglected you. Can you give me a chance to make amends, to start over?" I looked at him quietly. "I think I've made myself clear." Sam rubbed his somewhat messy hair. He always cared about his appearance and rarely looked so disheveled. He was wearing a charcoal gray suit, but had on a pair of blue cufflinks. The contrast in colors was too glaring, a big mistake. Every outfit he wore before was coordinated by me. But now, all I could think about was when he would leave. Sam looked at me with despair. "I do love you, Linda. I just didn't appreciate it before. I never loved anyone. I don't know how to love. That's why I made you upset. I didn't realize until you left that I can't live without you. It's all my fault. Linda, can you give me one more chance? And Henry can't be without you. He cries every day looking for his mom. No one can comfort him except you. Can you, for the sake of the child, not be so resolute?" He said he loved me. He said he never loved anyone and didn't know how to. When we first met, arranged by our families, he told me, "Linda, there is someone in my heart, you know, right?" At that time, he was in a stalemate with his family because of Vivian. Later, after we got married, He came home drunk for the first time, when he heard that Vivian had found a new boyfriend in America. The next day, Sam's mother pressed us about when we were going to have a child. Sam sneered on the spot, asking his mother to change my perfume to a special gardenia scent. Then he agreed to have a child. At every point, there was always someone else's shadow, and he said he never loved anyone. I looked at him mockingly. What about Vivian? Sam was stunned, as if some lie had finally been exposed. Looking down seriously, there was no Vivian, Linda. There was never any Vivian. I didn't want to listen to my family back then, so I did that on purpose. I only loved you. Always have and always will. I had also thought before that Sam's neglect and emotional abuse towards me were because of resentment from Vivian's incident. I knew the taste of an irresistible emotion, but I didn't sympathize with him. Later, when Henry was born, my feelings for Sam gradually faded, just numbly, routinely doing things expected of a wife to Sam. I put my hopes on Henry, yearning for the one person in this house who is truly connected to me. In the early days, Henry became my only comfort, but in just 2 years, that hope turned into a thorn embedded in my flesh. Perhaps Sam loves me, but compared to his reputation, dignity, and others, he was just used to my care and everything at his disposal. In our marriage, for whatever reason, he ignored me, emotionally abused me, and naturally believed that women should sacrifice for the family, all of which were unchangeable facts. No one is unable to learn to love, and no one does not understand love. To cherish what is lost is just the heart's unwillingness and the absence of encountering something better. Loving anything during youth is not excessive. Giving up anything during maturity is not wrong. Sam, give yourself some dignity. Sam has always been a proud person. He understood my words. So the last time I saw him was still at my house. Recently, I went on a trip to Australia with a group. There were many summer showers, and I got caught in a few rains. Coupled with recent troubles, I inevitably fell ill upon returning. When I woke up feeling unwell from the darkness, Sam helped me up. Henry was by the bedside, worriedly asking me softly, "Mom, how are you feeling? Is there anywhere uncomfortable? Should Dad and I accompany you to the hospital?" Sam placed a pillow behind me and told me, "I saw you swaying when you came back to the entrance of the community at night, and I felt something was wrong. Followed you upstairs and found you had fainted at the entrance. I had someone give you a fever-reducing shot. How do you feel now? Still uncomfortable?" He asked me softly, carefully handing me something. A glass of milky white liquid, a warm cup of milk. "You didn't eat anything at night. Drink the milk to warm your stomach." "Linda," he called my name softly, starting to scold me with familiarity. "You can't take care of yourself alone. If my son and I weren't here today, no one would have known that you had fallen ill. Linda, come home with us, okay? Let Henry and me take care of you." I looked at him uncomfortably while saying these words. Also, Henry sitting by the bed nodding continuously in agreement. I smiled, reached out, took the cup of milk. The next second, I let go, and the glass slipped from my fingertips. With a bang, the glass shattered into dust all over the floor. The white milk flowed on the ground. I pointed at the scattered pieces, saying slowly, "Sam, you see, the cup is broken and cannot be restored. The milk spilled is irreversible." And in a few minutes, the door of my house was suddenly knocked on, with a lot of people talking outside. Henry went to open the door. A group of people came in noisily. Each one was carrying a bunch of things in their hands, surrounding my bed. The crowd was chattering away. Finally noticing the presence of a man and a boy in the room, they hesitated and asked, "Who are these two?" I saw Sam and Henry instinctively tense their bodies. So, amidst the group's crowding, separated by the people, I smiled and introduced everyone. "It doesn't matter. A friend and his son." They left immediately and Henry collapsed instantly, standing at the door, crying loudly, shouting, "I don't want to leave. I want my mom." Coco barked a few times at him, disturbed by the noise. People from Sam's family immediately came out from hiding, carried the child away, and escorted the stumbling man away. I once sailed in the same boat, yet water under the bridge, the river and sea can never rest. Henry's epilogue. When Henry was 12, he finally gathered the courage to break ties with Sam and his son. He said he wanted to find Linda. He didn't understand why such a simple and easy thing was being hindered by Sam in every possible way. Henry didn't know that over these years, Sam had visited Linda. The reason he prevented Henry from going was that Linda had remarried and had a very cute daughter. Sam thought his marriage to Linda had been too much of a failure. Linda was delicate and easily hurt. Coming out of it completely would take some time. But Sam did not expect that Linda was nothing like he thought. She even seemed strange to him, laughing freely, living uninhibitedly, as if that was her true self. Suddenly, Sam remembered the first time he saw Linda. The girl was silent and quiet, sitting across from him being pulled by her mother. At that time, Sam was under strict control from his mother, had been arranged for an engagement, and was frustrated. He naturally couldn't stand this girl, 4 years younger, who seemed so taciturn. During those years, he quarreled with his family. Even his grandfather intervened. Sam reluctantly agreed to break up with Vivian. Vivian was his college classmate. She was straightforward and readily agreed to his favor. Sam didn't know Vivian liked him back then, and felt guilty later. When Vivian returned, they had dinner a few times and discussed some collaboration projects. Sam thought such practical matters would make Linda forgive him. At least, he hadn't really wronged Linda. He always believed that he was wrong to let Sam's family control his resentment towards Linda, so he was indifferent and unconcerned about her, making Linda feel cold-hearted, unable to bear it any longer, leading to their divorce. Until Sam saw Linda's post-marriage life, he realized what he had missed. Linda had married a policeman she met during a chance road rescue incident. The policeman's work was busy, but he always managed to make time to go out with Linda, to see the mountains, to see the sea, to seek out all the sources of life. The policeman would always inform Linda of any work-related matters, as soon as possible. He would buy or take photos of anything interesting, or new he passed by on his way back from work, and send to Linda. They shared life with each other. They loved each other equally. Not long after, Linda gave birth to a daughter. The little girl loved to run around outside holding the Maltese puppy, when she was learning to talk. As the girl grew a little older, she would brag to the other kids at the kindergarten every day, "My mom is amazing. She can do crafts and even race cars. Do you want to come to my house and meet my mom?" Sam was like a dark mouse, always peeping at other people's lives. Sometimes he wanted to go over and say hi to Linda. He wanted to ask her how she was doing, how she was eating, but in the end, he silently retreated. After that, he never inquired about Linda's news again. 1 year, after a social engagement, Sam returned to his empty home alone. He loosened his tie and called out uncomfortably, "Linda, I'm thirsty." He thought he would be greeted by a warm light, a cup of warm milk, but all that responded to him was endless darkness and silence. At that moment, overwhelming regret choked Sam, making it hard for him to breathe. His tall figure slowly slid from the entrance. In the darkness, his painful wail echoed,